Welcome back, everybody, to another round of Zero.Point reviews with Jeff and Kev. This time we're back. John Wick, Chapter 2. Kevin, I never saw this one in the theaters. Did you ever do it?
No, still haven't done the John Wick movies in the theaters.
Man, we're both physical media guys on this, aren't we?
Yeah, and mine just arrived. Well, no, my John Wick, I got that when it first came out. That's when I kind of hopped on board.
Gotcha.
And I was super excited because I heard the first one was good. The second one I was hearing was even better, and I'm like, we'll see. And we kind of watched them back to back, and it was mind-blowingly cool afternoon.
That sounds like a freaking awesome afternoon in my book. I'd probably, ultimately one day I'm probably going to want to do all four in a row and just have a good old day with it. It might not be as strong as like Lord of the Rings. 3 movies of extended versions would take you about 12, 13 hours. But based on how well the 4th one does at 3 hours, maybe I'm getting pretty close to that runtime.
I have binged those before in one straight sitting.
As have I.
There was narcotics involved.
Not with me. It was pure caffeine, soda, and everything else you could think of.
Mine was cocaine, I think, and Adderall.
Illicit drug use. All right, Kevin's already got us on our first 0 point.
I'm just saying that's how you get the energy and the desire to sit and watch those movies. Like, you know what's going to happen, but you got to sit and talk about what's going to happen because of all the cocaine. And then you sound like this and blah, 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 blah.
And then you snort enough cocaine, and John Wick Chapter 2 is balls out at that point.
I have a picture of what happens with too much cocaine later in this movie, so don't worry. We get to see the mind-blowing experiences of cocaine.
Mind blown. Yeah, my first experience was basically like 5-6 years ago. After the 3rd one came out, I got the trilogy, and I watched like the first 3, but ultimately I rewatched like the first 2 quite often. I just never made it to the 3rd chapter on like rewatches. I'd always get distracted by something else or whatever, but I always had a good time with them. But it wasn't until the 3rd one came out, and I got these movies like super cheap off of Amazon during like Black Friday or something. So I spent like no more than like $5 for like each of them.
Oh, wow.
But that worked out for me. And of course, these days I got like a little special shelf for Chapter 4 with like 4 different versions of the movie on it, which I'm a sucker. And of course, I have the stash box from Best Buy, which is super cool too. It's got the first 3 in it on 4K. So I've clearly upgraded my collection over the years.
Yeah, I respect that. And this is one of those flicks where you really don't mind the upgrades. And
no,
I think I said it before we hit the record button, but I had a side-by-side comparison of part 3 today, and the resolution difference between DVD and the Blu-ray. Woof! I don't even want the DVD anymore. Like,
it's just like suddenly there is light upon my eyes.
Yeah, it's like going from watching TV to watching a hologram in a shadow box, if you will. Like it was just so much clearer and beautiful.
I like to attribute to no glasses. Oh, you're a little fuzzy. You're a little far away. Oh, I can see. That's how I look at some DVDs to Blu-ray jumps, and I can easily see that for this early on. So,
yeah. The second one, though, they I want to say they changed their formats a little bit as far as the aesthetic. More neon. A lot more neon this time.
A lot more vibrant, colorful lights going on too. Like it's almost like they took the first world. I mean, it's not almost as if they did. They did. They basically took the first world and they just made it feel like a whole lot bigger. Not just like story-wise or character-wise, but like visually, audio, you got all senses just going off as this world is just exploding in front of us, and how much bigger the story. It just makes the whole thing feel much more grander, more epic. And the fact that he even leaves the freaking country instead of just being in his one little city dealing with these idiot Russians, like, that's fantastic to me. And I absolutely love the fact that we get a little more global and you get more insight to the underworld and what's going on, different continentals with different owners or managers. Like, however that worked was just, it's just like, wow, it's like a whole brand new world before you. It's like we're just waking up to John Wick. Like, chapter 1 was a nice little prologue. Here's the real meat of the bones on the story.
Yeah, because like we talked about last week, like it's very much it builds on legend, or it stands upon legend.
Yes.
You don't get to see what he does at first for like the first X amount of minutes of the movie. Then once the legend builds, then you start to get to see what he does. And then once you get to this point in the movie, part 1 still didn't show you enough of what he can actually do.
Correct.
And part 2, it was like, how do we make it bigger and grander? It's like you said, they had the bigger colors, the bigger scales. They went to fucking Rome, for Christ's sake.
Right.
They even cracked the joke, are you here to kill the Pope?
It's like, I just have to ask you one question, Mr. Wick. Are you here for the Pope? And he's like, no. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, welcome on board. I don't care who you have to kill or what you're here for. Just as long as you're not after the Pope, you can stay here. That was so funny to me. I get cracked up every time I see that.
Well, the only thing that kind of gets me, and it's not a nitpick, is like they kind of open up the world here in a way that you say, where it's like they're kind of adding an addendum at the last minute. Like here, for example, Winston explains there are 2 rules. Now, we heard the first one in the last movie: no blood spilled on continental grounds. Number 2, all markers must be honored. And when I watched this, I'm kind of like, well, that seems like they kind of made it up at the last second. But if they didn't, then we wouldn't have had a plot for the next movie or 2.
Well, I think, especially in regards to the first one, nothing was being questioned about markers. So they were just focusing on no business bloodshed on continental grounds. Here it's like, I know your situation. Here's a reminder: no blood on the grounds and all markers must be honored. He told Wick he had to honor it. He even made the idiot Santino honor his marker once it was all completed, because he sure as hell was like, he's going to be dead anyway. And Winston's just like, you still need to finalize that the marker is complete. He's like, fine, motherfucker. He just sounds like such disdain for like the status quo, because he's like, I'm going to be high table anyway.
Santino is kind of a penis. Like, there's really no other way to describe him. He's a cocksucker.
I was going to say asshole.
That too, but
like, man, he just went to no length to get John Wick back into the game after John's like, I'm not in the game. I'm not in the game. And this guy decides, I'm going to blow his freaking house up. And in like one day, he's going to be crawling back to me, begging to do my marker. It's like, wow, you arrogant prick.
Kind of, yes. And then the fact that he had him doing this with the full intention of double crossing him the entire time. You're like,
I think as the audience, we all kind of knew how that was going to go. It's one of those, it's predictable, but it works. It's not predictable and, oh God, that's stupid. Do something different. We hadn't seen something like this in the movies for a while. They took like older tropes that haven't been used for a long time, and they made it work for this story, and it didn't feel out of place. It actually felt like you're giving us even more reason to hate this asshole, so that when he gets his payback later, it's actually super impactful. And I think it pays off for itself.
I think so. I mean, it was a pretty splendid death.
Oh yeah.
Especially considering he was trying to act like a pompous twat, but he was
right
sweating.
Up to the very end. Yep. I'm eating my little corner of a French fry with a fork. swirled in duck fat.
In duck
And Wick's
fat.
just like, as Winston is trying to be like, Jonathan, walk away. Jonathan, don't do it. Jonathan, boom. And he shoots him, and it's just like, oh, shit.
We're going to need a cleanup. But here, I needed to make a point to this. Winston is completely infallible in the first two films so far. Everything that he has said, it comes to pass, or that's just the way that it is.
Like, heed his warnings. You listen to him.
But as far as Santino thinking it was a good idea to run to the Continental, for timeout with mom or whatever.
Yeah.
That mist behind him there, that's what his last good idea looks like.
Yeah.
That was just sweet. Duck fat.
That's what flew out the back of his mouth. But we had some excellent death scenes, and how you felt like the movie was ending. Like, I don't want to get too far ahead, but like, John goes home. He knows full well what he did, and he's waiting for his trip to the Continental payback grounds. And Winston basically is like, "You have a 1 hour head start. Get running." And it's like, wait, what the fuck's going on? I thought you were gonna shoot his ass and put him down. And even Wick was like totally accepting of like, it's my time now. I understand. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait a minute. Are we doing a sequel? Yo, we're doing a trilogy up in this bitch. Let's go. And the way he's running out at the end, I just internally I'm like, oh, he can't wait to get to the chapter 3.
Yeah, in which he is still fucking running that fast.
At the beginning of that movie, it's super funny.
Well, that's the neat thing about these movies that you catch so far is the second movie takes place just immediately after the first one ends. Like, basically, the moment John gets home, he puts all of his stuff away that he dug up from the first movie. Instead of having the big dramatic scene of him unearthing it, then now it's him burying it up again. And as soon as he's done, the doorbell rings with Santino's pompous ass.
Right.
Where is it?
Where is it? Slide for me today. Yeah, let's do this.
Well, not so much a slide, just Santino and Emmanuel Zorg back there in the background.
I knew I recognized her from The Fifth Element. Damn, dude. Chris Tucker, watch out, bro. You're up next.
Not a good suit. I'm sorry.
Or haircut.
No, because it looked just fucking like him.
Well, to the movie's credit, she didn't have one word she spoke in this whole movie. It's all sign language.
Yes.
Number 1.
She did pretty good in this for what they wanted her to be.
Lead henchman number 1. She was so not a threat to Wick at all. It was that's what her character name should have been, is lead henchman number 1.
Lead henchman
or henchman supervisor. Ooh.
I wanted to do what we've been doing so far and only pull one punch on somebody, say like we did with Bill Maher.
Knock them fuckers out. Let's go.
Oh, no, I got some good ones here, man. I mean, it's like, first of all, when she goes to frisk John,
she does the reach around all right. It's almost like, hey, I'm going to give you a squeeze anyway, big boy.
Yeah, and then they kind of...
and your prostate's okay too, Mr. Wick.
Why does it take so long to pee at night? Goddamn. But they tried overselling Ruby Rose, and this was before she had her accident on the set of Batwoman, so nobody knew that she really wasn't the action star that they wanted her to be.
She did quite a few movies around this time.
Yes.
I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I know I've seen her in like a few other movies around the time that this came out.
The only thing that I could think of is the Meg. And really, the shark is like you watch the shark for that.
I want to say she was in a. Crap, I can't remember.
See? It doesn't fucking matter what else.
All right. I'm going to. Ruby.
But I'm just saying, for as cool as they made her out to be, looking back in hindsight, knowing that it's just not that cool, the scene just looks like this to me. I'm cool. I waited all week to show that picture.
She was in Orange is the New Black. That's where I recognized her from.
Oh, yes, that's right. My wife told me about that. That's
And
another one of
then-
those shows that I got to listen to against my will.
And then Resident Evil, the final chapter.
Don't remember that.
I do. So, and then she did the Meg and of course, chapter 2 of John Wick right here. So that's where I recognized her from. I actually more recognized her from the Resident Evil movie than in that case. But I know she was also in a TV show called Dark Matter, which is on our schedule at some point in the near future. So we will discuss that probably just one more time with her. I think she's only in it for an episode or two. But Orange is the New Black, we're not likely to cover that. That wasn't really canceled.
No, no. Nor is it really our shtick.
Yeah, no.
It's not my shtick anyway. I mean, it might be your thing. I don't know.
I watched the whole thing with Amy, but it's all right. The first couple
I got to
seasons
sit
were
and
the
listen to
best.
Brandy watch it, and the best I got out of it was like some of the crazy shit that Lori Petty would say, and that was about it.
That was a much later. That was like the last 2 seasons when Lori showed up.
Otherwise,
First 2 seasons are the best though for that show, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about blowing shit up and killing things with a big body count. John Wick.
John Wick.
John Wick.
Speaking of John Wick, this had an awesome soundtrack to it, did it not?
Freaking A, man. I was jamming to this. I'm like, I had my stereo going last night, rewatching a little bit more of it. I'm like, man, this shit is dope.
I dug
I
it.
want the soundtrack so bad now. I mean, I don't know what's holding me back other than I don't want to spend too much money before my vacation.
Spotify, man. It's on Spotify. That's where I got it.
Good call.
Because I needed to listen to some of it. I mean, you told me it was great, so I wanted to pay attention to the score, and I did. And the John Wick mode, which is exactly what the song's called, John Wick mode, is basically dubstep, and it's not that bad, but at the same time, all I could hear is Cable in the back of my head saying dubstep is for pussies.
For reals.
You'll fuck this planet no oblivion, and dubstep is for pussies. But no, it's so regarding the music, there's this one scene where he has to go out to Rome, like we talked about, to take out the mark. And it's in these old wonderful ruins and whatnot that apparently they rent out for the bad guys to have major raves on. And I don't know what this was, but the music was interesting as fuck. Like, it's not bad, but you just have to say, what in the sweet name of Eurotrash am I listening to here?
It could have been worse. It could have been some weird, like, reggae metal thing going on. I don't know.
I don't know. My only real experience to electric violin was, say, like Queen of the Damned and Revenge of the Nerds.
I was going to say Revenge of the Nerds, yeah.
Poindexter, man.
And Omega Moose.
They fucked that song up on the soundtrack, by the way. It's a completely different song from what they sing.
Of course. Why am I not surprised?
Anyways,
They wouldn't dare do that on John Wick soundtrack. He'd shoot them all and say, you messed up my dog's hearing for an hour.
my
All dead.
dog's hearing. I like the dog in this movie.
Yes.
It's
Cutie
the
pie.
same dog, very handsome. He's a good boy. Stays at the Continental most of the time and is pampered. Like,
Yep. He doesn't play much of a role in this particular one, other than just showing up at more somber moments.
yeah, to kind of like pick you up and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got good smiles. He's a good dog. He's a good dog.
Good dog.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it didn't have any poor moments for animals and shit like that in this movie. They kind of got past that.
Wait till the next one. And the next one is what makes me happy because we get some German Shepherds.
I just finished harvesting stills from that scene. You are welcome.
Thank you. I'm a sucker for German Shepherds. My baby girl is outside. Although she's sleeping, I could probably open the doors, but that's okay.
If I let Mia in here, like everything would just tear down behind me. She's like the happiest, like whirlwind ever.
Ooh, she's a kaiju. Gotcha.
Kind of like her tail whips it. So
does Towers.
She took out my daughter's face today. It was great. And my wife's
how's
like,
that for a body count? The Smith household.
Well, my wife's like, why is that funny to you? I'm like, because it's finally she's not whipping me in the dick for once. She's whipping the kid in the face. Which you'll see more dick whipping in John Wick 3. But back to John Wick 2.
Yep, we're dipping our wick in John Wick 2.
The gore. They added gore. It's like they heard me bitching about the CGI and they added more gore in this. It was...
Yes, they traveled back in time after you bitching from the first movie from last week. And went back and upped the gore. Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to make sure I had that straight.
I would say thank you. And I appreciate what they did for me. But
I did like the violence in this shit. This was off the hook incredible in my eyes.
Look at this cat here. This guy right there ought to be wearing a fucking poncho like he was at a fucking Gallagher concert or something.
I was going to say Gallagher concert where he's smashing watermelons and it's getting all over like the first 30 rows.
And then this guy here shortly thereafter. They spared no expense. Like it costs absolutely nothing for CGI effects. So it's like, they're like, blow shit up everywhere. Entrails, brains,
I'd almost be very curious if they did run it through the MPAA and they're like, too much gore. And maybe they just did way too much to begin with so that they could scale it down to what they really wanted. Because sometimes they do that in Hollywood where they're like, hey, let's go crazy so we can have the level that we want. But sometimes that passes and they have to like, do we really want that much then? Or do we scale it back on our own without having to?
Don't let them lowball you.
Don't do Friday the 13th style or Nightmare style and cut out like 20 minutes of the good stuff.
Yeah, right.
But at least with this, like with Wick, he's like treating it like almost a zombie apocalypse, and he's like double tapping everybody. He's putting fools down like crazy, and it's just like watching a video game. Like that's how I would fucking shoot people in a goddamn game. Like I'm gonna just one shot, no, boom, boom. I'm gonna take your kneecaps out.
Well, even the CQC, the close quarters combat, like that's just like watching somebody fucking go flawlessly on Batman from like person to person to person to person to person. Like it's amazing. And again, there are no stunt people. That's Keanu doing all that shit, and he's amazingly cool. You're good at it too.
Yeah, well, he took his years, like when he was on the Matrix. Regardless of what you think of the Matrix, he learned some really good martial arts techniques while doing those movies, and he was able to take some of that and apply it here. Yes, it was more of a MMA kind of style fighting in this sort of movie. He's not exactly going all kung fu karate on fools in this, but he's got a fluidity to him, some real athleticism, and he takes advantage of his height and his reach, and he really does wreck fools in this. Yes, he gets his ass kicked a little bit, but he ultimately prevails almost every time. And just that fight choreography, like, man, this movie is like even more stunning than the first one when it comes to the fight scenes.
Yes, like they don't go backwards that I've seen so far, as far as quality and grandeur. Like the prestige to these movies just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that
It's
doesn't
almost unheard of for movies to like continually get better. Like 4 in, they're still, it feels like they're ramping up even more and more, and the quality is just top notch.
not many movies can say that at all. Like,
Not many could say, "Hey, I got to my second sequel and it's awesomer than the first one."
yeah, or
I know
uh
that's not a word.
awesomer's a word. We say it all the time.
Comments below. I want to hear if that's a word.
all the first 3 movies that I've seen so far, I think they're all 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, and it's like I don't see it going down at all.
That's a fairly respectable score, even though like most of the sites these days that do the ratings and the scoring aren't exactly like on the up and up. But
No, yeah,
just
it's like,
always kind of pay attention to, just take everything with a grain of salt, see it for yourself. Like if you've never seen these movies, you need to go see it for yourself and make your own opinion. You're the only one who's the best judge of what you like and what you're into.
sure, like if you like action movies, just in general, if you like kung
Oh yeah.
fu shooting, this movie's going to be for you. If you like Steven Seagal movies where they're just like endless gunfire, this movie is most certainly for you. But if you're the type of person that hates Steven Seagal movies because there's endless gunfire, this movie is extra for you because, again, everyone's shooting the shit out of John, and John doesn't have but 7 bullets in this fucking movie.
And also, John Wick is not carrying about 70 more pounds than he should be.
Oh, come on. It's COVID weight.
Hey, I like some Steven Seagal movies, but his more recent ones are
Oh, Seagal.
yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I was talking about. Keanu's not carrying like 70 more pounds than he needs to.
He's tall.
But I mean, like, look at our background. Like, he looks like a freaking badass. And finally, a role that suits Keanu. He is a good actor. He's very, like I said, he's very athletic and he's got charisma. And, like, you don't need much more. Keanu is perfect for this.
Yeah. I know it's not going to be such, but golly, I'd still like to see him play Wolverine in the MCU. I think
I'd like to see him play Batman.
Yeah, he did pretty good in Super Pets.
Best bitch in the movie. Kidding. I'm kidding.
Super Pets is actually really funny. It's like I'm
Super Pets is pretty dope. I actually like that more than a lot of the other DC movies.
It's better than the Lego Batman movie. Like I hated the Lego Batman movie.
We just lost like 30 subs now. Thanks a lot, dude.
No. Come back, y'all. If you like the Lego Batman movie, toss that motherfucker out the window and do yourselves a favor. Go on to fucking Max and look for the Lego DC superheroes. They've got a bunch of DC or Lego Justice League with Troy Baker doing the voice of Batman. Nolan North is the voice of Superman, and it is fucking delightful.
You had me at Nolan North.
He's so good.
It's freaking awesome.
And he's like, he plays the podunk Kansas kid that happens to be able to lift a tractor. So, yeah, watch
right.
Way better than the Lego Batman movie, which, anyway, yeah. 0-Point reviews. John Wick 2 had a lot of padding in it that was excellent. Like, you didn't want to complain about it at all. Better than the padding that they had in the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie where he was fighting on that wheel for 20 minutes.
See, I'm not going to get us too far along, but part 2 was okay for Pirates sequels. The third one, well, I like them all. I'll be the first one to say, like, the third one is where they lost everybody.
Yes.
The first one's obviously the best, but like by comparison of like the 4 or 5 of those movies, like you play that concept of this franchise and you got 4 awesome movies, and Pirates you have 1.5 of
Yeah.
really awesome. Like if you took like Pirates 2 and 3 and you cut out all the stupidity and the excessive filler and fluff and whatnot, somewhere in there, there's a really good movie. After
Yeah.
that, the sequels are kind of okay. But I still like them all. I'll still watch them all. But
It's
Wick,
hard to.
I'll sit down and watch all these fuckers all day long, and I can't wait for the Continental show in about a week.
I finally got to see that trailer, by the way. Mel looks pretty cool. It's not fashionable to compliment him, but he looks good.
We'll see.
And they open up a bit of the story there. Like maybe he's like, it looks like Winston, how he becomes the manager.
Right.
So I'm gonna guess Mel's the bad guy.
That's what I'm thinking, but I'm not entirely sure until we get either a better trailer or we just wait for the episode to. Well, it's like a mini series. It's only three long. I mean, I'll check it out if I find a free membership to Peacock. I ain't paying for
that. Peacock's not bad. I mean,
they're all right. Or I might just wait for a Blu-ray release of it for watching.
Peacock will still put their movies out like
yes,
from the theaters onto the streaming. They take care of their customers pretty well.
And they do physical media releases. I have no doubt there will be a Blu-ray 4K of the Continental. There's too much money invested in it, and they still believe in home video despite their the way they're planning things out these days. Oh, hey, we're going to give you a Blu-ray. You're not going to get your 4K till a year later. Thank you, Universal, for screwing people over.
They want to make sure that you get your nice version before you get your really nice version.
Exactly. But I'm pretty confident we'll get a nice release for that too. So we'll see when we can get around to watching that. Might add that to the 0-Point rotation once it does. We'll see.
I would dig that because now that I'm into part 3, and again, not to get too far ahead of it, but relating that to the Continental, I'm beginning to like this world. It's when you see more than just John Wick. I mean, yes, I prefer to see him there, but the whole world is really fucking interesting. Like the way that they place bounties is fascinating as hell. It's so weird and funny. It's hard to explain without spoilers, but again, we'll get into that next week.
Yeah, but they also they do show in this movie. They basically call this call center of like what looks like Suicide Girl hotline, and and they basically take everything over the phone and then like put out the notification that somebody's contract is open. This is how much money it is, and yada yada yada. And it's super funny. And they also have a process for excommunicado as well. And I know we'll see more about that in the third movie, and I can't wait to get back into that too. But like for this movie, that was a really, like I said, they were really increasing the scope of man, how intricate is this world? And just relating to the Continental, this movie where Ian McShane as Winston his role was really opening up, and you also got to see Larry back too, and that was a really fun thing to see as king of the underworld, so to speak. And we get more of him in the third one too, but like his appearance in this, it's like a little reunification with Keanu. We also had like the Russian at the beginning of the movie, the uncle of the other guy. I forgot what his name was. I think it was like Abraham or something like that. But he, if anybody recognizes him, he was the devil in the Constantine movie.
Yes. Where are we here? Here we are.
But this time he had a beard, so not nearly. There you go. And so it was really nice to see a couple like reunions on screen a little bit. Like, I appreciate that. And they're not exactly like, oh my God, it's, whatever from the Matrix. And it's the devil from Constantine. It's like, no, those are the actors. And it's just nice to see them in another role with Keanu. He must have really liked working with them, or even everybody on staff was like, hey, that's perfect casting for these roles. We'll do it.
That's true. And when actors that work together so well like that and have had such great track records together, your audience responds like this. Like
God, yeah. And watching Larry handle a bird like that, I'm like, oh wow.
That was cool as hell.
Yeah.
That really was. His character is cool. Like, definitely not Morpheus, but at the same time, very much powerful, not overconfident, but extremely confident. Yeah. He's the Bowery King. He is the throne.
Yep. And I like how they basically set that up. Like when Keanu's like trying to escape from everybody and he runs up to this hobo and drops a coin and he's like, take me to him. Then he just lies down, tries to throw a blanket over him. And all of us in the audience are watching this. And the hobo is even looking at the coin like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden he throws the blanket over it, and it's like, "Hey, wait a minute, is he in on something?" And then he caps the two dudes, and it's like, "Oh, what is going on here?" The first time I remember this scene, the first time I ever watched this movie, I just was like, "What the fuck?" I had no idea something like that was coming my way.
Yeah, because I mean, for one thing, you're sitting there distracted, like, "Oh my god, John just stuck his head probably in shit or piss." And then after that, like, yeah, it was just like watching a fucking 6-shooter get shot out from like the penis gun from fucking Dusk Till Dawn.
Sex machine, you know?
Just fucking blew that guy's skull like straight to the goddamn roof for the subway.
Thanks, Savini, for that one.
Yeah, like it went noticed. It was cool. I liked it. Again, that's opening up the world to, or the John Wick universe, seeing did this guy even have a name? Because it's like the names of these assassins get to be more
interesting, I'll say.
Yeah, like
it's almost like watching Dark City and everybody's called like Mr. Hand or Mr. Book or something.
Yes, that's the weirdest things. The Judicator.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's more in the next one anyway. But
well, then you talked about the ballerina. That's going to be a TV show unto itself, I think. Didn't you say that?
Movie.
Yeah.
It's basically the 5th entry into the John Wick movie franchise.
It still looks interesting from what I saw.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the last thing that was like this that I really enjoyed was the older James Bond movies. That's the only thing I could really compare this to.
Okay.
Like the scope of how fun and cool the universe is.
Oh yeah, especially when he's like doing all of his shopping, and he's off to Rome, and he's like, "Is this sommelier in?" Of course, he's always in. He's 24/7. I'm like, what the fuck? And then you see the wine, and then all of a sudden it pans over, and you see the armory, and I'm like, oh, this is dope. This is cool.
And then I'm sitting there laughing to myself because I'm like, "How do you do, Mr. Wick?" said the tick. That's awesome. I love him so much. He's cool.
Fantastic. Like everybody plays their role amazingly perfect in this movie. You couldn't ask for better out of chapter 2, in my opinion.
There's no bit parts. Like even say like the lady that in the sweatshop that when he wants to see the tailor, she gets this like dope moment where she's a fucking assassin too.
Yeah.
And she's fast as shit, ornery as hell. Like there are no small characters.
No, everybody's got a role to play, and that's awesome to see. It actually tells you, like, pay attention. There's some cool shit here for everybody.
Yeah. And you don't get tired of the fight scenes. The fight scenes come and go in waves, like story, fight. And you don't really get tired of it. Like the fight scenes are all pretty gratuitous to the point where you're like, nothing is repetitive.
Right.
Like some things are callbacks. Like you do get to see him kill people with a pencil in this movie. So,
yeah, well, yeah, it's not just a story anymore.
Yeah, you actually get to see him, like reach for the pencil like a cartoon. Like, oh, I got a weapon.
Oh God, just watching some of this reminded me. I don't know how many people watch epic rap battles, but there's a epic rap battle of history where they have like John Wick against John McClane and John Rambo, and there's enough fun lines thrown at everybody that they talk about. I craft rhymes with pencils and gem them in necks, and they drop so many fun verses. Just I'm watching this movie and I'm like, it keeps throwing those lines and lyrics in my head, and I'm like, this is so much fun.
I was sitting there thinking to myself, there should be a catchphrase to this. Like, if this was the 80s, there'd definitely be a catchphrase to a kill like this. And all I could think of is number 2 only.
Yellow number 2.
Yeah. I've never seen a number 1 or a number 3 pencil, but.
Or a 5 or a 6 or a 7, but well,
yeah.
If you ain't first, you're last.
And then look at this. Shortly after he fucking stabs these 2 or 3 guys with the fucking pencil, then he takes a knife and yanks this guy's fucking scrot off. Like,
oh, that was so sick, dude. Oh my God.
And at this point, they just keep adding that fake blood, and you're like, okay, keep it coming.
We got a gusher.
I mean, admittedly, it's not as good as Kill Bill blood-wise, because again, it is CGI.
Oh man, Kill Bill went crazy with that stuff, and they did it on purpose like that. So
yes, like he was trying to make homages to certain pictures, and then I think he was also trying to like throw his dick down on the table to fucking Sam Raimi or something.
And then he showed his feet off, and he's like, "Yeah, kiss my feet." You're welcome for that visual, everybody.
I had to put that out of my head.
Well, let's put something better back in it with John Wick.
John Wick did not get lit off this. No, I guess you could say he did get lit off.
Dip your wick in it.
Dip your wick in it. Golly, speaking of which, was he supposed to have had a romantic relationship with Santino's sister?
I think it was alleged that they had a relationship before. I mean, everybody seemed to know John on sight, even if it's been a few years. But it certainly seemed like there was something more there, because she didn't want him to go through with killing her. She was happy taking care of herself in that regard. She's like, you know what? I'm dead. I'm going to go out on my terms.
Yeah, right? Like, she knew that there was nothing else. There was no escape. Like, John is the harbinger of death and the best at it. And, like, she had the self-respect. Is that the term I'm thinking of? To where she didn't want her brother to make that decision for her, the last decision that she could make.
I think there was part of that to it, yeah.
And John allowed her to make that. Yeah, John allowed her to make that decision, but then, of course, had to make sure that the job was done.
Yep, and boy, did he put a cap in her head. Well, and say what you will about, like, a lot of what's strong and what's hard are about these movies. These are movies that you think there would be something like, say, nudity in, or, like, a whole lot of, like, foul language. There's none of that. It's just violence outright that gets this movie these hard R ratings. And it's like, you think about it and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, there is none of that in this movie. But does it need it? No, it doesn't. Even though, like, these ladies are perfectly beautiful and stunning.
Oh, sure.
But it's not necessary. So the fact that they have such a strong cast, strong writing, good editing, good directing, good everything else going on, you're not actually looking for it in these kind of movies. And that's a hallmark of a fantastic movie, because we can see, like, horror movies and we're like, man, something's missing. Well, and you watch an action movie like this and you're like, nothing's missing.
Yeah. There are no catchphrases, which is great. Like those should have never been a thing ever. Like,
I'll be back.
you know what gets stuck in my head? Applesauce, bitch.
What's that one from?
Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back.
Oh, okay.
It's where they're filming Goodwill Hunting 2. And Ben Affleck.
Oh, I remember that now. Okay. I have not seen that since the theaters. That's how long it's been since I've seen that one movie.
I almost peed the first time I saw that in the theater when he says that. Applesauce, bitch.
Yeah, catchphrases don't always really land. The only other catchphrase that I know of, and it's not really a catchphrase, is Bond. James
Bond.
That's just basically him with his name.
Then there's Clifton Collins Jr. in Boondocks 3. 2. Ding dong, motherfucker, ding dong.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, I know there's a bunch of catchphrases in other like action movies, but we don't need to go down that hole because, quite frankly, the movie doesn't do it either. So,
no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
was there anything about the movie you didn't like? I mean,
no. It's a little dark. They're using CGI blood, which again we've gotten past that, long past that. If you got the first film, you're good with it by now. You don't need the dark corridors. I know it's supposed to be somber and shit, but if I'm watching the movie on Blu-ray, I should be able to see what's on the screen. It's not always that bright. Otherwise, no, actually, you know what? The other thing I didn't like, the pseudo stylization of the weird. Wait, no, that's not it. Where is it? Here.
Looking for a slide.
Where they all come out of this fucking elevator looking like they're at a Madonna or Beyonce concert.
But yo, Beyonce got the best music video of all time.
Wait, no, that was Three Little Pigs.
Little piggy, let me in.
Green Jelly has that fucking title.
Goddamn right, yo. Well, I'm glad they didn't go with something so like kitschy to throw in this movie, like a pop culture song or some metal song that everybody knows. Like, if I had heard a Metallica song playing this, well, it would have been, you know, who would really argue with that? But I would be like, no, you just took me out of this movie now. Didn't need it.
No, and I would say, all kidding aside, the nostalgia songs, I believe that's her name, is Nostalgia. They were very appropriate for this because it is more or less Euro trash, but it's a beautiful version of it. It's a very romantic version of it. If you've played Assassin's Creed, you've basically been through all these corridors that they're fighting in the movie. I almost cracked the joke, like, needs to go find Ezio's wolf armor, take a right.
Look for the Eagle vantage point in the northern quarter of the city.
The only part that kind of makes you eye roll is they're like firing machine guns everywhere in these old ruins, 1,000-year-old ruins, thousands, excuse me.
Yeah.
And they're just like firing guns at them everywhere, or there's a great big hot tub in the middle of them.
Yeah, there were some like design questions I had when I was watching this movie. I'm like, you really want a fight scene in there, and you really want a hot tub there, and I mean, nothing that's cool. Like, I mean, super nitpicky. I mean, I can't think of anything major that was a drawback to me, but other than just a few like set designing sort of things. But hey, it fits with the theme of these movies. Like, these arrogant rich pricks certainly have to have their toys out in the middle, like freaking everywhere, and just flaunt it all the time. But I didn't have any problems. I really have like no major issues with this movie, like in any regard. I thought it came in at a good runtime, was well edited. We've already gone through everything else. I think this is one of the most well done movies I think I've ever seen as far as action goes. Yes. And the drama's good when they do it. I think the only thing I would maybe add is I would have liked a little more backstory with the sister and John Wick.
Yeah.
But they may have had something and had to cut for time, but it's all right. I enjoyed the movie no less.
That's true. And you don't want to detract from the angel that his ex-wife or that his deceased wife is.
Bingo. That's a very good point.
Yeah. You look at Clint Eastwood's character in Unforgiven, where he doesn't want the freebie because he's married, but his wife's been dead for 5 years. It's just the way that character is.
Code of honor.
Yeah. And some things you just can't get over.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, but the actor was fantastic. I liked her. I would have liked to have seen her more. But again, we wouldn't have a part 3, 4, and whatever else is going to happen had she lived.
Right.
So, but
well, at least, and they never go down the road of, oh, did she fake her death? Is she really alive? Is she really a member of the high table? They never go that way. When you're dead in these movies, you're kind of dead unless your name is John Wick.
Goodbye, Bucky.
Yep.
See you later, Uncle Ben.
With great power comes greater guns to blow everybody else up with.
No shit. And they started off with a thump gun in this movie. So I was kind of like, well, okay, then. That's cool.
Even I'm like, what the hell is that kind of gun? He's blowing up his house in like 2 shots? Like, holy balls.
Yeah, but it was fun.
Well, and I love the cop asking him, John, are you working again? And John and the dog just kind of walk off. And the cop just looks back at the house on fire. And he's like, oh, shit.
I like Jimmy.
Yeah.
He's a cool character.
Him and Leguizamo, I actually get a kick out of both those two right there. And they're only in the movie for like so briefly, but like you had mentioned, everybody's got a role to play in this movie, and it all means something. I love Jimmy as the cop who's just like, oh god, you're working again. How fuck. How much more mess do I gotta clean up, dude?
No shit. He was great. And then again, the suicide operators, they were fantastic. Really fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to what I didn't like, the only thing I didn't care for with this was Ruby Rose. A hero is only as good as its villain, and she was not the match for John Wick. She just wasn't. Cassian was the match for John Wick.
And boy, did Cassian get his.
Yes, and it was a fantastic fight. It really, really was.
That was good, yeah. And I loved it when the subway stopped and everybody else who was on that, they flew the hell off the second the doors opened. They're like, bye.
No shit. We've seen how this movie ends. We're out.
Yep.
But like the big fight scene between them that was supposed to go down, like he almost instantly breaks her arm, which was great. Always fun to see. Oh god, they wanted to make her look badass, so they went to do like the Rambo getting ready scene, like tying your shoelaces, getting the knife, and all that shit. Well, it's a massive butt shot like you'd see on Batman and Robin. I'm like,
get away to that.
Completely unnecessary. Anytime I see a nice butt shot, I like to remind people that's for poop. So, cheeky. But then exactly. And then lastly, when she finally leaves, I could not wait for the moment to end. Just stop. And I could see what she's trying to do right there. Like she's trying to show hate with nothing but her eyes. But she looks like the chick on Up in Smoke that snorted fucking Ajax going. That's what she looked like.
I didn't mind her so much, but she didn't really pose a credible threat, in my opinion. She showed no evidence of like fucking other people up at all.
No,
like,
she just tried to act like an anime villain, and I'm like, you suck.
Yeah, that would be like the biggest drawback for me. But she does have that's why I made the crack earlier about like lead henchman #1. She's kind of like a nothing character because they really didn't make her out to be any sort of badass other than she doesn't talk. She speaks in sign language and she looks menacing, but she does nothing of the sort that's menacing other than trying to get him to have a drink with her. And John's like, no. Which is super funny. But, she was all right. She's just kind of a mid character that really put up no fight for John. That fight was over within less than 2 minutes. The fight with Cassian lasted longer.
Yes, across counties. Which it was funny. That fight was almost like watching the fucking the beginning of Temple of Doom, where they fall from the plane and like the Sahara, and then they land in the, the Himalayas. It's like the fight just went on forever over spaces of time until they finally land in the Continental.
Yep. Which I wasn't expecting that the first time I ever saw this movie. I'm like, wait, how the hell did they get all the way back to the Continental?
Weren't you just in Rome?
Yeah, weren't you just like about like 5 miles away from here? How did you get over here? Oh, well.
I don't know. They had that good scene together in the bar. That was
excellent.
I mean, you feel bad for Cassian because it's like he doesn't need to be better than John Wick, but he needs to not have that stigma that his charge was erased on while he was on duty.
Yeah, I agree.
Or ward, whatever he referred to her as.
Yeah, well, no, he referred to her as his ward. But I thought he was very, very good as well. Like he has a good menace, he's got good presence, and he can keep up with John Wick and the fights. It's like, oh yeah, this dude's got skills.
Yeah, he was a cool bad guy to watch. He was a cool fight to watch. And he was one of those people that you're going to be like, better shoot that fucker because he's going to get back up when you think he's dead.
Well, and I also liked when they were going through like the subway station and they're like, it's like that was so just casually trying to kill each other without setting off a mass panic. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I just was so lost in enjoyment and giddiness in that scene. For some reason, it put a smile on my face, like how chill they were being like, I'm trying to kill you. I'm trying to kill you too. But let's not like send everybody running crazy out of here.
That's the easiest way to get out.
I know. But I don't think either of them really wanted to get innocent casualties. They were more just like, John's just trying to get away, and the other one's just trying to kill him. And they both understand, like, we're not trying to kill everybody, just each other.
Just each other. They're extra paperwork.
Yeah. The Suicide Girls won't like that one.
They won't like that one. With their rockabilly skirts and yeah, anyway.
50s costume design.
That's how things start. That's how fetishes start, kids.
Indeed.
Sorry. I have a thing for goth chicks. You know this.
Who doesn't?
I don't know.
Nope.
I can't think of an answer for that one.
Well, so far, Kevin, how would you rank this up against the first one? You think this one's better, or you think it's just as good? I mean, clearly we don't hate this movie, so that's why I didn't even ask.
It's not better than the first movie, no. Action-wise, sure. Violence and gore, yes, it is. Story-wise, not as much, but it is bigger on the scale of like there's again bigger sets, bigger fights, more explosions, a lot more CGI blood. Still no boobs in the bathhouses, but it's still just as good, not better, but just as good.
Yeah, I would put it on an equal footing at this point. I wouldn't say that this one's better, but once we're done with all 4 of them, maybe we'll do a little ranking before we let us out of John Wick month and I'll see what you think, and we'll compare notes.
Yeah, because otherwise, like, this is pretty comparable. Like, my idea of it going from, say, like, Delta Force to Delta Force 2 is the same thing with John Wick and John Wick 2. Like, it went from cool to wow, that's something really different and special.
I like it.
And then Delta Force 3 never happened, or yeah.
Yeah, it does not exist, dude. No. Got any final thoughts for us before we wrap it up?
I
Or any
don't.
slides you didn't show us that you want to show?
No, I don't think so. I think I showed all my debauchery, other than just the one last time of where's the her face?
I knew there was one more in there.
I can't help it. It makes me laugh.
Well, I get a kick out of it. I love doing these reviews with you, and I love John Wick Chapter 2. It is a very fun and excellent movie. And next week is John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, the first one with a subtitle. So that'll be a fun one for us to cover next. And thank you all for tuning in. Hey, if you got some fun memories, comments, thoughts, or anything about John Wick Chapter 2, hey, put those in the little comment section below. We'd love it. Please hit that like button. And if you want, please do give us a subscribe. Hit the little bell notification. Keep you up to date on all of our video content coming soon. We are working our way towards 250 subscribers. So help us hit that. We would greatly appreciate it. We're inching closer and closer day by day. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.